What's going on, Tamers? It is me, Guy, who is so incredibly appreciative. And I say that because we recently passed the milestone of 3,000 subscribers on the channel. To all the folks who have subscribed or just enjoyed watching my videos, I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, truly, thank you so much. My goal for this channel has always been to just create a place where folks who love the Digimon card game can gather and share their love of the game together. So thanks for joining me on this ride, and I can't wait to see what the future holds. Moving on to the actual topic for today's video, I got really lucky. So about 2 weeks ago, I got super interested in the red hybrid deck in BT13, and I realized that most of the cards are from BT12, and BT12 is about to come out in the West, so why not do a deck profile with all this knowledge I've accumulated for the deck so far? Red Hybrid, in my opinion, is a great deck to build for a lot of reasons, actually. First of all, Red Hybrids is a fantastic choice for a deck if you're just hopping to the game and you're just learning the Digimon card game. The effects aren't too crazy, the deck isn't super difficult to pilot, and it's really powerful, and it's going to keep that power for quite a while. Which leads me to my second point, it is just a strong deck. Even in BT13, the deck sees a lot of play, and many Japanese players have rated it one of the best decks in the game right now. And third, the deck doesn't seem super expensive to build. I'm not going to pretend that I know what the prices in the West look like, but at least for me in Japan, as far as like the relative price of decks goes, this deck has pretty low cost. You need about, at most, 6 super rare cards, and then everything else is either rare or below. Of course, you could bling out your deck and, then the sky's the limit, but for folks who are just trying to get a build of a deck together, whether it's just their first deck ever, or they've got a couple of BT7 hybrid cards laying around, they want to, put those to good use, this is a great deck to pick. So let's hop in and talk a little bit about some of the cards in the deck, as well as a couple of core strategies and combos you're going to need playing the deck. So as always, we're going to start out with our level 2s, our Digitama for the deck, and this deck is going to run 4 copies of BT11's Yokomon. Your level 3s for this deck are mostly just built to either give you card search ability or to just run security to get some chip damage off. So Yokomon having an on-deletion effect to draw cards is super useful here. Not only are you going to get the card draw from the Digivolution in Raising, but you're also going to get that extra card draw if you have a Tamer out whenever this card's destroyed. Moving on up to our level 3s, all level 3s in this deck pretty much serve one purpose, and that is to search out cards and to dig through the deck for the cards that you actually need. Pretty much all of them have an on-play ability that allows you to search the top X cards of your deck and then grab one of those cards or more, and the 4 copies of this BT4 Flamon in the deck are no different. It allows you to search top 3 cards in the deck and grab a hybrid and a red Tamer and add them both to your hand. So next up, we're going to have the BT7 version of Flamon, 4 copies of this guy in the deck. This is going to be our golden Flamon. I say that not only because he can look at top 4 cards and grab pretty much any card in the deck, but also he has an on-deletion effect and inheritance that lets you play a Tamer for free. So in the off chance you do Digivolve this guy into a level 4, you're going to have that nice little sweet bonus effect of playing a Tamer for free whenever it's destroyed. Moving along, we've got 4 copies of the new BT12 Flamon, who, while searchability not great, he does like to throw away a card into the trash, and you're going to be able to pick up 2 cards off the top of the deck as a result of that. And honestly, you might think, well, having to throw a card away from your hand is pretty bad. In this case, it's not so bad because this deck actually takes advantage of having cards in the trash. We'll talk about that a little bit later when we get to our level 6s. Also, an inheritance, again, if this guy does end up Digivolving, the plus 2000 is actually really big, and we'll talk about that when we get to the Tamers. And the last Flamon we're going to have in the deck is going to be 1 copy of the BT6 Flamon. Now, if you play this card on the field for its 4 play cost, you are either super desperate or you have made a mistake. And I say that because this guy is only used to be thrown into the trash and then used later on for your level 6s. I say that because his inheritance effect gives the Digimon he's under piercing if it's a hybrid type or Tin Warriors type. And when we get to our big chunky level 6s, they're definitely going to take advantage of his effect. And then rounding out our level 3s, I have 2 copies of the BT7 Bokomon. Now, I actually used to have 2 copies of Red Memory Boost in this deck, but I figured that Bokomon is actually a better choice for many reasons. The first is, he's an actual Digimon, so whenever I need to, I can have him attack into security. 2, his searchability is actually better than Red Memory Boost, because he allows me to grab 2 cards, one a Tamer and then one a Hybrid type Digimon, and add them both to my hand, rather than just 1 card from Red Memory Boost. Where the Red Memory Boost only gives me plus 2 memory 1 time, Bokomon, as long as he's on the board, every turn is going to give me that effect over and over and over again, so I can get a lot more value that way. So our first level 4 is going to be 4 copies of the BT7 Burning Greymon. Now, he's really flexible as far as Digivolving is concerned. You can pretty much always find a way to put your opponent at 1 as long as you have a Tamer and a level 3 on the board. You can kind of choose how to Digivolve in order to set your opponent down and choke them. I say that because you see he Digivolves from a level 3 for 3 cost. You can Digivolve from a level 4 for 1 cost. And then you also have the option of Digivolving from a Tamer for 2 costs as per his effect. And then when you Digivolve, if you have that red Takia Kambara Tamer, or you have a hybrid type Digimon in your traits, which you always will in this deck, then he's going to be able to pop something for 4000 DP or less. This effect is so useful for getting rid of some of those pesky Floodgate cards, and also some of the weaker blockers, and actually most of the level 4s you're going to be seeing in the Hunter's deck, which is coming out in BT12 as well. And so while this removal doesn't seem super big, it's actually really important for the deck. Our next level 4 is probably going to be the best level 4 in the entire deck, and that's going to be 4 copies of the BT12 Agunimon. He digivolves from not only your Tamers, but also your level 3s for 2 costs, which is less than pretty much all the other level 4s in the deck. Additionally, he digivolves from a Burning Greymon, the Digimon card we just looked at, for 1 cost. So what's cool is you can actually loop like things like Agunimon and the Burning Greymon, digivolving over and over again in order to get a ton of effects, or if you're just hard up for card draw. And what really pushes him over the top is that he has 2 great on-deletion effects. His natural on-deletion effect allows you to play a rested Flamon from your hand, and if you remember what we talked about before, all the Flamons in his deck are basically searcher cards, so you can get free search whenever he's destroyed. The other option is that if you do Digivolve over this guy, then you get the inheritance effect of being able to play a Tamer from your hand for free. And honestly, that's the one you really want the most. Getting out the free Tamers with this deck is going to be so big. And our last level 4 for the deck is going to be 4 copies of the BT12 Burning Greymon. So another Burning Greymon card in this deck. Again, this guy's a little bit more expensive on 3 Digivolve, but he does Digivolve from Agunimon for 1. So remember when I said before you can kind of like loop Agunimon and Burning Greymon? You can do that with all the level 4s in this deck. Additionally, he's going to Digivolve from your Tamers for 2 costs, which again, a little bit cheaper than 3. You're probably always going to want to get a Tamer down to Digivolve into this guy. And then additionally, he's going to give you the plus 2000 DP. I cannot stress enough how important this plus 2000 DP is, because he's going to get a ton of effects off of just this plus 2000. Additionally, in Inheritance, he has the same effect where you get plus 2000 DP on your turn. Admittedly, a lot of the action of this deck actually takes place at the level 4 and below. For that reason, we actually don't run a ton of level 5s in this deck, because there's actually alternate ways and alternate paths to get to our level 6s that don't involve them. Of course, we are going to run 4 copies of the BT7 Aldemon, who is great for 2 reasons. The first is, if you're digivolving from a Digimon that has a Tamer in its sources, then his Digivolve cost is reduced by 2, making him a 1 cost level 5 Digivolve. Additionally, if you have a hybrid in his sources when you Digivolve, then he's going to get plus 4000 during the turn, which means you're getting access to a 12,000 DP level 5 Digimon or higher for 1 memory. And then he has that golden inheritance effect that prevents security options from being activated. Chaos Degradation, eat your heart out. Moving on to our level 6s, this deck is going to have 2 kinds of level 6s. The first one is going to be 1 single copy of the BT7 Emperor Greymon. He has the really cool Blitz effect that allows you to attack even if the memory swings over to your opponent's turn, which makes him great for finishing off games, being able to swing even though the memory goes over to your opponent's side on his Digivolve cost, which is a little bit higher at 4. And then what's even better is that if he ends up being blocked for whatever reason, whatever crazy person decides to block this guy, you get to unsuspend him, and then you're going to gain memory for every hybrid in his traits. And because of the way this deck works, you're probably going to be getting anywhere from 3 to 5 memory back. Moving on to our second level 6, and the star of the deck in my opinion is going to be 4 copies of the BT12 Emperor Greymon. This card does so many things right for the deck. First of all, inherently it just has security attack plus 1, so minimum you're checking 2 security every time he hits. Additionally, when he hits the board, you get to destroy a 6000 or lower DP Digimon, but if you have a Tamer in this card's sources, you get to destroy any Digimon who is weaker than him. And do you remember before we talked about all those plus DP effects that we got from our level 3s, level 4s, and level 5s? Well, those factor into this effect, which means you can pretty much delete anything under, I think the average is like 16,000, but it can go anywhere as high as like 21,000. So you basically can delete anything in the game once this guy's on the field. And then if your opponent finds some way to actually destroy this guy, when he's deleted, you get to play Takia Kambara card from your trash, which means you get this nice little loop of being able to Digivolve your Tamer up into a level 6 Emperor Greymon, and then if he's destroyed, you take that same Tamer that was destroyed in his sources and put it back onto the field for free. And then finally, for our level 7s, we have 1 copy of the BT5 Omnimon for the deck. We use him similarly to how we use the 1 copy of the BT7 Emperor Greymon in the deck, and that is because he has Blitz. He also unsuspends himself, so in a lot of cases, you can just Digivolve into a Kaiser Greymon, hit for a ton of security, Digivolve into your Omnimon, he unsuspends, even though it's your opponent's turn because the memory swings over, he still gets that 1 attack with Blitz, and then the game is typically over. There are some rare cases where you can actually use his All Turns effect to prevent him from being deleted, but honestly I think those are far and few between. This card is typically going to be your game finisher card if you have him in hand. So looking at the options for the deck, our first option is going to be 1 copy of the BT1 Gravity Crush. So I hadn't really messed with this card or used this card until recently when I saw it used in a game at my locals here, where a player played Gravity Crush and essentially got 2 free memory and their opponent didn't get anything as a result. Now you're probably wondering, well East, how does that happen considering at the end of your turn your opponent gets plus 2 memory to work with? Let's imagine 2 scenarios. The first scenario is that you have 1 memory to work with and you play Gravity Crush, which means you're going to gain 2 memory and go to 3. And then let's imagine that you play a card that costs 4 memory. And so you go down from 3 to 1 on your opponent's side. Your turn's over, and then at the end of your turn, your opponent's going to gain 2 memory, putting them at 3. Let's imagine a second scenario where your opponent has a Tamer down that makes them start every single turn at 3 memory. If you play Gravity Crush at 1, you go to 3, and then you play a card that costs 4 memory, it goes to 1 over on your opponent's side. At the end of your turn, your opponent gets 2 memory, which means they go to 3, and then at the start of their turn, the Tamer effect kicks in, and they get no free memory here. So where I thought before, for some reason, they would start their turn at 3 and then they would get 5. I realized that Gravity Crush activates at the end of your turn, and because of the timing there, your opponent doesn't get anything off of their free memory Tamer. And because this game right now is so rife with these Tamers that start your opponent at 3 every single turn, Gravity Crush is a great option for a little bit of extend whenever you are in a sticky situation. I wholeheartedly think that if you're running a red deck, not only red hybrids, just give this card a shot. It's actually really useful. And the second option we're going to be running is going to be 4 copies of Atomic Inferno from BT4. I've seen some people run just 2 copies of this card. I've seen some people run 3 copies of this card. And honestly, it's got a pretty decent effect. 1 memory, one of your Digimon gets plus 3,000, security attack plus 1, and if they get blocked, they gain 3 memory. But that's not why I run 4 copies of this card in the deck. I run 4 copies of this card in the deck because if it gets checked in security, your opponent is in a ton of trouble if they can't kill you that same turn. Atomic Inferno's security effect is this aura effect that buffs your entire board. All of your Digimon that are in play, and all of your Digimon that come into play the following turn, all gain security attack plus 1. In a situation where you might have 1 Digimon and a Tamer, or just 2 Digimon on the field, suddenly your extend goes from just 2 security checks to 4 security checks, which is insane in this game. And that's why I love having 4 copies of this card in the deck, because honestly, it's great in my hand, but if it gets checked in security, it's pretty much curtains for my opponent the following turn. So rounding out the deck, we're finally at our Tamers, and this deck is going to run 2 kinds of Tamers. The first kind is going to be 4 copies of the BT7 Takia Kambara Tamer. Now I mentioned before that this deck is able to get to the level 6s without using the level 5s, and this is the way that they're going to do it. If you just have 5 hybrid cards in the trash, you could put them up under your Takia Kambara Tamer here on the field, and then Digivolve into a Emperor Greymon as if it were the level 5 Digimon. The cool thing here is that you get all of those inheritance effects from your hybrid Digimon for free. It's either going to be plus 2000 DP, or whenever this Digimon is deleted, play a Takia Kambara Tamer from your hand for free. And then this Takia Kambara Tamer here is different from most other Tamers out there because he also has an inheritance effect, where he gives your Digimon plus 2000, and if that Digimon has over 10k, you get security attack plus 1. So if you're going to get to your Kaiser Greymon here, the one from BT12, you're going to be checking for 3 security. For this reason, this guy's going to be one of your great comeback tools for the deck. And then our last Tamer for the deck is going to be 4 copies of the BT12 Takia Kambara. This guy is exactly what this deck needed. He lets you start every single turn at 3 memory if you're at less than 3 memory at the start of the turn. Additionally, you can Digivolve over this guy with your hybrid type Digimon. He's going to give them plus 2000 DP, and then if they have 10,000 DP or more, and they check a security, you're going to gain 2 memory. So he not only represents memory as a Tamer on the board, but also free memory as a Digimon whenever he attacks security. And finally, here is the full deck list that you can use as a template to build the deck for yourself. Alright, so now that we've taken a look at all of the cards in the deck, let's look at some strategies you can employ when playing the deck itself. In the early game, we're going to want to play out our Flamons, like so, as well as our Pokémon in order to search the cards in the deck for either Tamers or the hybrid Digimon that we need, for example, level 5s, level 6s, and other level 4s. Additionally, if you do have that BT7 Flamon in hand, I love to Digivolve him over the Pyokomon in Raising because he's got the inheritance effect of being able to play a Tamer for free from our hand. And then if you do have that BT12 Gunimon in hand, you're going to be able to Digivolve over this Flamon to queue up that on deletion effect and get that online soon. And while it's also possible to Digivolve this Flamon into one of your Burning Greymons, I don't recommend it because their Digivolve cost is a little bit higher at 3 rather than the Gunimons whose is 2. You want to typically save these Burning Greymons for your Tamers because they Digivolve from your Tamers for 2, the reduced cost. And so once we've used our lower level Digimon to find our Tamers and the cards that we need, like our level 4s, we're going to get those Tamers down as soon as possible, and then we're going to be able to Digivolve these guys into our Burning Greymon here for either Security Attack Plus or for Memory Back whenever we check a security. What's really good about Digivolving into the BT12 Burning Greymon specifically is that he gives you plus 2000, he's only got 6000 heroes, that puts him at 8000, but also the Takia Kambara Tamers give him plus 2000 as well in inheritance, which means that puts him at the 10k minimum you need to get their secondary effects, whether it's again Security Attack Plus from the BT7 version or Memory Back whenever you swing from the BT12 version. So that makes this Burning Greymon from BT12 super important. And if your opponent does have one of those really annoying floodgates that are preventing cards like your Pokemon from getting free memory every turn, then you can Digivolve into your BT7 Burning Greymon and then destroy it outright. And then as the game goes on, you're going to be destroying your level 4s, running those guys into security, And then you're going to build up that nice little trash stack of hybrid Digimon, and then you can Digivolve your Takeo Kambara from BT7 directly into an Emperor Greymon by just using those 5 cards in the trash. So we take all the hybrids here, and make sure they have a nice little effect. And then suddenly we have this very, very scary Digimon. And so just using like 5 random hybrid cards from my trash, he gets plus 2,000 from the Burning Greymon. He gets to not check security options with the Aldemon. He gets to play a Takeo Kambara Tamer from the Flamemon here, as well as the Agunimon. He also gets to play the Takeo Kambara from another Agunimon I picked up. And then on top of all that, because it's a Tamer in his sources, he's going to be able to get that deletion effect of pretty much anything less than the DP that he is. And starting from 11,000, he's going to get plus 2,000 from the Tamer effect, and then plus 2,000 more from one of the hybrids up under his sources, which puts you at an easy 15k. That's pretty much level 7 in the game. And then whenever you check security with this guy, you're going to get Security Tech Plus from the Emperor Greymon, Security Tech Plus 1 from the Takeo Kambara Tamer, which means he's checking 3 security whenever he swings. Another option you're going to have for closing out the game is just running in your Kaiser Greymon for like, 3 security checks, basically wiping out all of your opponent's security. And then if you've got the Omnimon in hand, you can just play this guy. He gets blitzed and he can attack one more time, even though it goes over to your opponent's side. And that's going to be it. Again, I think the trap that I fell for when I started playing this deck was that I always wanted to get to my level 6s, but honestly, you're going to want to use your level 4s for the most part in doing damage to your opponent's security. You don't have to hold on to your Atomic Infernos for your level 6. In fact, I actually encourage you to use it actively on your level 4s. Then you go to buff them up, keep them around on the board a little bit longer, then check multiple security at the same time. This way, your Emperor Greymon has to do less work at the end of the game. And then one last thing, if you can keep your Pokemon on the board from the early game, try to do so. Again, once per turn, you're going to get that free Digivolve from your Tamer, because again, the Digivolve cost for all the level 4s in this deck from a Tamer is 2 cost, but Pokemon gives you plus 2 memory whenever you Digivolve from a Tamer, so it's going to be for free. The other option here is to use your BT7 Takeo Kambara Tamer, and then take 5 cards from the trash, and then Digivolve into your Emperor Greymon with these cards here. And because you're doing it from a Tamer, that essentially makes him a 1-cost Digivolve using the Pokemon's effect. So again, 2 minus 3, in this case is 1. And so just to reiterate one more time, Pokemon is super useful in getting a bunch of free memory as long as you can keep them on the board. So that's where we're going to wrap up for today. And so if you're the kind of person who loves these hyper offensive decks and also loves the flexibility of being able to Digivolve from not only Digimon but also Tamers, then definitely give Red Hybrids a try when BT12 drops. As always, if you guys have any questions about the deck that we talked about today, feel free to put them down in the comments below and I'll definitely be answering them. Anyway, I'm going to get out of here. Before you get out of here, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.